Welcome. I'm Mike Adams, the founder of Brighteon, joining you from my home studio today because we're joined by a very special guest who is in a completely different country, different time zone, so that's why I'm doing it from here. And our guest today, a returning guest, and someone whose work I greatly admire, is Brian Berletic from The New Atlas. And his channel on YouTube is called The New Atlas. And he joins us today to talk about what's going on in the world, because it seems like there's nothing happening whatsoever. So welcome, Brian Berletic. It's an honor to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me back on. It's an honor and a pleasure.
I'm thrilled to have you on. As you know, I listen to every one of your broadcasts, by the way. And so thank you for what you do. And I just want to share with my audience real quickly that the reason I very much appreciate your work and your video reports, Brian, is because you bring a level of rationality and really reasoned analysis to everything you're talking about. And even you've been focused on Ukraine, of course, a lot for the last year and a half. But even then, you tend to cite Western media articles. You're not citing RT or Sputnik or what have you. You're citing Western media articles, and yet that still points out the points that you are trying to make. So we really appreciate you bringing that to the issues here today, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. It's very flattering. I mean, I've been following your work for probably over 10 years.
No kidding. Well, okay, I'm a little bit, you got me blushing a little bit. I wasn't aware of that, but let's jump right into the issues. And I know we can always learn from each other. So I want to help share your expertise with the audience. And let me start out by saying something that will be controversial, and that is the PSYOP has a new chapter, the global PSYOP, which started out with I stand for the science, and then it became I stand for Ukraine, and now it's I stand with Israel. So people keep falling for the same PSYOP, just in different flavors over and over again. What is your big picture perspective now of what is rapidly becoming called a holy war, which is kind of scary for lots of reasons, now in Israel involving Palestinian civilians, Gaza Strip, and all of that?
So you bring up a really interesting point. We see these new chapters, and a lot of these chapters are actually remakes. And we've seen the fighting between Israel and Hamas erupt at different times over the years. And then there's these periods of relative calm. And now we see the fighting erupting at a very convenient time. We see it erupting at a time where the U.S. proxy war against Russia is faltering in Ukraine. The Ukrainian offensive has, by almost all admissions, failed. And it was a perfect time for a distraction. So, we don't have any actual evidence that this was all planned and engineered and timed, but it is very convenient. And we can see the United States and its allies shifting their attention away from this growing failure in Ukraine toward Israel, supporting Israel.
Oh boy, is there a lot going on or what? Every time something happens in the world, I'll get a text, with normal intel, but the other ones will say, there's another Julie Green prophecy. There's another Julie Green prophecy.
I'm pulling some up here. I was trying to keep them all on track this weekend because I got bombarded like text messages and phone calls. Did you see that? Did you see that? The Lord said this is a prophetic word. And there's just so many of them. And one of the biggest ones, excuse me, one of the biggest ones that I am so excited about is Arthur Pawlowski, when God said he was not going to go back to prison. And I had him on my show right before he was being sentenced or whatever. And I was like, the Lord said this prophetic word, you weren't going back. And then, of course, he didn't go back. And so that was so awesome. And I had him back on the show yesterday. I absolutely love Pastor Pawlowski and his wife. They're just amazing people. And this just as an inspiration, because even when the cards and all the deck is stacked against you, God just like shows up and goes, yeah, I'm bigger than that deck that's stacked against you. Like, I am the way. And so it was just so awesome, especially to see such a powerful man of God be freed like that. That was pretty awesome. I loved it.
And his faith is so contagious. I mean, he stood up against all kinds of tyranny in Canada and never backed down and trusted the Lord all the way through. I believe he's going to be in Doral next week, isn't he?
He is.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm finally going to be able to meet you in person. I'm so excited. I talked to him on the phone. Actually, the first time I ever talked to him on the phone, it was in Oregon. at the Reawaken America tour, the first one I was ever at. And I was told by his spokesperson, they said, you know, his wife read him this prophecies that God had given you. And she read it to him every day when he was in solitary confinement to keep his faith alive. And I just bawled and bawled and bawled. And she's like, do you want to talk to him on the phone? He wants to talk to you. And I was like, of course I want to talk to him. And that's how that friendship really grew.
So here we go to a clip here with Donald Trump calling out the fact that Joe Biden can't really put one foot in front of another. And then I have a clip of Joe not being able to put one foot in front of the other.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
There's never been a time where we've been closer. We're inches away, and we have a man that literally can't speak. He can't get off a stage. The other day, he tried to get off a stage. Now, look, I'm up here now. There are a lot of people. There's a lot of television going crazy. There's so much. I'm up here. But, you know, when I'm finished, I'm going to look over there. I'm going to see an exit. I'm going to look over there. I can take that one. And what I can't do is walk through the back wall. Then he turned her. Did you see the other day? Thank you. You know what happens after about 20 minutes? The stuff that he's taking wears off, so it gets really big. Gets a little groggy. Gets a little bit groggy. They say, get him off the stage. That's swearing off, man. Get him off. No. And I'm sure that the cocaine that they found in the White House, that nobody, I'm sure, I feel certain it had nothing to do with Hunter and Joe, by the way. Here, Dad, have a little of this stuff. It's going to liven you up a little bit.
Yo, between the Phillies and Eagles, man, it's a good year, man. This is a good year. We're going to win the series and the NFL. Look, and if I didn't say that, Bobby Brady would be up on the stage here with me.
What just happened?
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tap into the wisdom of today's two guests, Dr. Stella Emanuel and as well as Doug Mahaffey, attorney, to get your thoughts. Dr. Stella, I want to start with you. The Euphrates River dries up. The false prophet Yuval Noah Harari shows up. It appears as though the kings of the East are teaming up, China and Russia, and it appears as though Hamas may be being funded by China. Maybe you disagree. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And you know something else? The red heifer has been found in Israel, and they are hoping to build the third temple within a year. They've already bought the land on the Mount of Olives and thinking about building the third temple. I think you actually did a show on it. So all this stuff are coming together towards a time when the kings of the East will march in, the third temple will be built, and the Antichrist would install himself in the third temple and call himself God. So, Clay, I had I get prophetic dreams. We just finished the 30-day program, and I had this really, I'll call it a devastating dream, because I was screaming at people that, don't you see evil is coming? Don't you see the rapture? The Lord is coming soon. Wake up, people. The Lord is coming soon. And everybody was looking at me like, Dr. Stella, calm down. And I'm yelling and telling people, wake up. The Lord is coming soon. Things are going to get really, really bad. Wake up. And people were just kind of ignoring. I had that last week. It's about to be on and popping.
You know, Doug Mahaffey, you have Israel here is at war, as announced today by Benjamin Netanyahu. And again, you've got, in June, China flies out the head of Palestine to China, where they have a ceremony. And do you see any connection between Hamas, AKA, and then the connection to China there? Do you see any connection between that, or do you think these are unrelated events there, sir?
No, I think the enemies of Israel have been mounting their hatred and plans to destroy them for decades. The one thing that Bible prophecy is clear about is that Israel becomes the center of the conflict. And the conflict, of course, in Israel is because that's where Jesus returns. And that's where all the prophetic words were spoken all the way back to the Old Testament prophets, that Israel was going to be the center of it. All of us who visited Jerusalem, and I know you have, and I know Dr. Stella have, when you get there, you sense that this is the epicenter. And when you have China lining up now with Palestine, which is the greatest enemy of Israel. Remember, Palestine thinks Israelis and Jewish are not human. One of my friends was from Palestine. Another friend was in Israel. Of course, they were Americans, and we were having a candid dialogue. And they said, look, you Westerners don't get it. You don't understand. It's not that we hate them or that we think that, they're people that we are at war with. We consider them subhuman, a mistake. So Palestine considers the Jews a mistake, that God had an aberration of creation and that there's no existence with them that aligns with their God, which of course is the false God. And we don't relate to that. We have enemies that we want to destroy to protect our freedoms, but we don't consider other people non-existent animals that were made by God by mistake. So this elimination of Israel, and of course to have the prime minister declaring we're at war and having now that direct statement to his citizens that you need to clear out, you need to follow our command. Look, you can't get a better alignment. God doesn't tell us the timing. We don't know if this will drag on for, as Dr. Stella said, maybe just a few more years and months, or we don't know that God won't extend this out for decades. It doesn't seem, though, that the timing is going to be long. And so I would say the correlation is really alarming. It's exactly what you would expect. And this could be the very beginning of what is leading up to all the prophetic teachings, both that John saw, Daniel, and of course, Isaiah.
Join us on October 25th, a Wednesday, at Brighteon.tv for the telethon event, which will be packed with interesting guests, hosts, shows, announcements, auctions, gifts, and so much more. So thank you for listening. Hope to see you there. October 25th, Brighteon.tv. Take care.